Update Desk, a new bombshell in the investigation into who Tupac here in Vegas in 1996. The only man currently facing charges in the case, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, claims that Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, paid for a hit on Tupac.
So do you think Puffy was involved in the shooting?
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I wouldn't say things that I knew, you know what I mean? I believe so. I do believe so. I have proof, things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not.
So, it's looking like a wild day for Diddy in prison because some serious heat is coming his way. Word from reliable sources says that federal agents are working on his current charges and are now collaborating with prosecutors from the Tupac Shakur case. They're trying to connect the dots between Diddy and Keefe D to see if there's a motive for Diddy's possible involvement in Tupac's death.
Or else it would have been like for hire or something, you know what I'm saying?
The FBI said it was just Zip.
So the FBI told you. So the FBI told you that Zip kept that money as well.
They said Zip's the dirty. Everybody cross you.
And it doesn't stop there. Tupac's family also has stepped into the mix too. They've hired their own lawyers and private investigators to specifically look into Diddy's possible connections to Pac's death. So now there's a whole team cooking from different angles, and it's only a matter of time before something big breaks. Stay tuned because things are about to get even more intense.
Puffy allegedly gave the money
I heard
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to
But
him.
thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it.
We already know that Keefe D, the self-confessed LA gang kingpin, is the only person currently charged with Tupac's assassination in September 1996. But that could soon change. Diddy's name has come up a staggering 77 times in documents submitted by prosecutors in response to Keefe D's bail request. And here's the kicker. The same federal investigators who got Diddy locked up are reportedly sharing intel with the LA prosecutors handling Tupac's case. According to inside sources, the feds have been gathering info from Las Vegas prosecutors and others about potential connections between Diddy, organized crime, and motives behind Tupac's murder. Initially, the focus was strictly on Keefe D, with no one from the DA's office mentioning Diddy as part of the case. The goal was to lock down enough evidence to convict Keefe D as the main player. But now, with the feds jumping in, they're working together to piece it all together and explore Diddy's possible involvement. According to sources, federal investigators are currently focused on Diddy's recent activities, while keeping an eye on the information being gathered in Las Vegas about Tupac's case. For the past couple of years, Vegas authorities have been talking to dozens of witnesses and collecting a huge amount of evidence about Keefe D and his connections to criminal activities. This investigation is the most thorough look into Tupac's murder ever. The feds are working smartly and are aware of what's happening, ensuring they don't duplicate efforts. They have easy access to federal documents and know who the local investigators have talked to about the case. There's a good chance that they already have some evidence against Diddy. Phil Carson, the former head of the Los Angeles field office, mentioned to the Daily Mail that he suspects Keefe D might have turned on Diddy to save himself. He pointed out that it's not like the old days of the Italian mafia, where everyone kept quiet. Nowadays, when someone gets arrested, they'll turn on anyone, even their own family, to save their skin. Now that Keefe D is arrested, it could change the game, because he might start spilling secrets. As an OG in the game, he's mingled with many big names, and each of those guys has stories about how things were run on the streets back in the day. It's possible Keefe might share some information he hasn't revealed before to save himself. While we can't say for sure that his arrest is the reason federal law enforcement executed search warrants at Diddy's house, it raises questions about the evidence that led to those warrants. It must be something substantial. Remember Greg Kading, the retired LAPD detective who investigated Tupac's case back in 2008 and 2009? He previously revealed that Keefe D gave his nephew Anderson the gun that killed Tupac, and they had plans to target him together.
Says he has solved the rapper Tupac Shakur, who was found in Las Vegas nearly 20 years ago. Detective Greg Kading says he has proof it was Sean Diddy Combs who orchestrated the murder. His book on the investigation has now been turned into a documentary.
That was Tupac. That was Tupac. No, he got shot. No, he got shot.
Who besides yourself down there knows, for one, knows about these guys?
Pretty sure.
In Kading's documentary, he mentioned that Diddy allegedly put a $1 million hit on both Tupac and Suge Knight due to their highly publicized beef with Biggie. According to the documentary, Tupac was ultimately taken out by Crips gang member Orlando "Baby Lane" Anderson, even though the original plan was for Keefe D to carry out the hit. Things changed last minute when they unexpectedly approached Tupac's car from the wrong side, leading to Keefe's nephew executing the hit instead. In the documentary, Keefe D revealed that Faith Evans, Biggie Smalls' then-wife, allegedly knew about Diddy's plan to take out Tupac. He claimed he reached out to both Diddy and Faith to inform them that they were involved in Tupac's death. However, the detective clarified that Biggie wasn't involved in Tupac's killing, despite their well-known rap feud. He stated that Biggie had no idea about Diddy's plans to eliminate both Tupac and his manager, Suge Knight, but Diddy certainly was aware. When asked if he believed Keefe D's account, the detective told the Daily News that Keefe appeared genuine and transparent, as if he was recounting events he had personally witnessed firsthand. The detective felt convinced of his truthfulness due to the corroborating details Keefe provided, which he couldn't even have known unless he was involved. For instance, Keefe knew about a secondary witness from that night that investigators had kept secret. Keefe D also may have implicated himself in Tupac's murder. During an interview with Vlad TV, he gave specific details about that night, saying, "I've seen a bullet hit him. I thought he was dead." He described how Orlando leaned over and that they rolled down the window to confront Tupac's vehicle. Keefe confirmed he was one of the 4 people in the white Cadillac that pulled up alongside Tupac's car before shots were fired at him.
Keefe D and his entourage get into a white Cadillac. Along with Keefe D, the driver is a guy named Terrence Brown. They call him Bubble Up. Behind the driver is DeAndre Smith. He's in the left rear passenger seat. And Keefe D's nephew, Orlando Anderson, he's sitting behind the right front passenger seat. All Southside Crips.
He was also boasting about his involvement in his memoir, Compton Street Legends. In the same Vlad TV interview, Keefe claimed that the $1 million hit was paid to gang member Eric Von Zip by a famous hip-hop star, but he didn't reveal who that star was. However, his past comments strongly suggest it was Diddy. Tupac's brother, Tupac Shakur, has stated that everyone Keefe D has implicated regarding Tupac's case should be held accountable. He revealed that Diddy once called him to deny any involvement in Tupac's death, saying, "I just want you to know I ain't have nothing to do with your brother's death." Tupac found it suspicious that Diddy reached out, especially since an LA Times article from the early 2000s had recently implicated him. He appreciated Diddy's call, but insisted that the truth would eventually emerge. After Keefe D's recent arrest and his resurfaced claims mentioning Diddy, Tupac believes that there should be a deeper investigation. He hinted that Keefe might know other individuals connected to the case, and stated, "At this point in the game, somebody's accountable. Law enforcement has a job to do. Will they do it?" He feels Tupac is finally getting vindication. While many thought he was crazy back in the day, his instincts might have been right. In light of recent developments, Tupac's family has hired a legal team to ensure that if any evidence links Diddy to the case, it will be uncovered. Sources say that family members have retained attorneys Alex Spiro and Christopher Clore, along with a team of investigators, to examine Keefe D's claim that Diddy offered him money to take Tupac out in the 90s. They suspect that there should be or could be truth to this allegation and are determined to find supporting evidence. The legal team plans to explore every lead, with the Diddy accusation being a primary focus of their private investigation. If they discover any material that implicates Diddy in wrongdoing, they will pass it on to authorities for potential criminal charges. If nothing comes of the criminal investigation, Tupac's family might consider filing a wrongful death lawsuit if they gather enough evidence. The pressure on Diddy is intensifying from all sides. Eminem has also expressed his belief that Diddy is involved in the murders of both Biggie and Tupac, adding to the scrutiny surrounding him. In his latest track, Fuel Shady Edition, featured on the newly released The Death of Slim Shady Expanded Murs Edition, Eminem has reignited the accusations against Diddy regarding the death of Biggie and Tupac. He made it clear that these thoughts are still very much on his mind, rapping about how the notorious Big's death was a direct result of Tupac's murder, using vivid imagery like, "Whose card should I clean next? Puffs till he's in police handcuffs?" Eminem questions Diddy's potential guilt, wondering if he'll ever turn himself in, while hinting at the numerous unsolved murders in the mix too. His raw lyrics indicate that he won't hold back his words. These federal investigators appear to be determined to unravel the truth behind this decades-old mystery. But to really understand what happened, we need to rewind a bit to where it all began. Tupac and Puff Daddy were actually friends at first. In fact, there's a moment that shows just how close they were. When Biggie was preparing his album Ready to Die, he was worried about missing his big break. The label he was signed to, Bad Boy Records, owned by his manager Puff Daddy, hadn't taken off yet, and Biggie felt things were moving too slowly for him. He even went to Tupac for advice, hoping that Tupac could help manage his career and boost both his music and film success. But Tupac turned him down and encouraged Biggie to stick with Bad Boy Records. He reassured him that Puff Daddy would eventually turn him into a star. At the time, Biggie and Tupac were tight, like street brothers. Biggie called Tupac Duke, and Tupac would call Biggie by his real name, Christopher. Everything seemed fine between them, but, as we know, good things don't last forever. One night, Tupac was in New York, on his way to Quad Recording Studios. He got a call from Jimmy Henchman, a well-known associate of Haitian Jack, asking him to make an appearance on a track for an artist Jimmy was managing. Coincidentally, Biggie was also at the studio that night, working on a song with Junior Mafia. Lil Cease, one of Biggie's crew, saw Tupac outside and mentioned it to Biggie. Biggie told Cease to invite Tupac upstairs. But before that could happen, things took a dark turn. When Tupac and his friends reached the building, they were ambushed by two men with guns. The robbers forced them into the elevator and made them go upstairs. When they returned, Tupac was on the floor, bleeding from gunshot wounds. Lil Cease went back up and told Biggie what had happened. Tupac felt that Biggie and Puff Daddy were acting surprised and guilty, though Puff later claimed that they had shown nothing but love and concern for Tupac's condition. In the end, Tupac believed he had been set up by Jimmy Henchman, Haitian Jack, and even his once close friends Puffy and Biggie. This incident deeply disappointed Tupac and marked the beginning of a bitter feud that would change the course of hip-hop history. According to Napoleon from Outlaws, Puffy's decision to release Who Shot Ya right after Tupac's shooting stirred up even more tension. Many felt like the timing was too coincidental, especially since Tupac had already accused Bad Boy Records of being involved in his attempted murder in New York. Napoleon said Puffy wasn't thinking about the consequences, only about getting rich off the drama. He was basically saying, I don't care if people might lose their lives. Let's put this out and make money. The song's title alone, Who Shot Ya?, left many people wondering about who it was really aimed at, fueling the East Coast and West Coast rivalry even more. Things escalated further when Suge Knight visited Tupac while he was in prison. During that meeting, Tupac told Suge that he believed Bad Boy Records had something to do with the attempt on his life. He told Suge, I need you to ride with me because I'm going to destroy Bad Boy Records. Tupac was convinced that Puffy and Biggie were involved in setting him up, despite Puffy denying any involvement. It wasn't just about the shooting. It was about the betrayal Tupac felt from those he once considered friends. After getting out of prison, Tupac dropped the infamous track, Ambitions as a Rider, where he hinted that while he was locked up, he received letters asking him to squash the beef with Bad Boy Records. But by then, Tupac wasn't interested in peace. He wanted revenge. The tensions continued to rise when a fight broke out in Atlanta between Death Row and Bad Boy, during which Suge Knight's friend Big Jake was killed. Rumors spread that the shooter was someone from Puffy's crew, adding more fuel to the fire. When Puffy was questioned about the incident, he expressed frustration. He explained that he was in Atlanta with his son and wasn't involved with any drama. He claimed he didn't even have bodyguards at the time. Puffy said he saw Suge get into a fight at the club, but he had no idea who Suge was beefing with or why. Puffy said he tried to help, but when shots were fired, chaos erupted. In the confusion, Suge's friend was shot and killed. Puffy said his back was turned, and he could have been hit too. Suge, however, accused Puffy of being involved, which only deepened the animosity between them. After the Atlanta shooting, rumors of retaliation and an all-out war between the coasts began swirling. The New York Times even reported that Puffy allegedly sent Mustafa, Louis Farrakhan's son, to talk to Suge and try to cool things down. Puffy denied sending Mustafa, but admitted that he had supported anything that he could help stop the beef. Still, Suge refused to meet, as he was too angry at Puffy by that point. Things got even darker when someone from Bad Boy Records showed up at Death Row parties. Tupac and his crew nearly beat the man to death, trying to force information out of him about his boss. The most disturbing part of this event is that they allegedly made the man drink urine as part of the beating. Tupac was in full revenge mode by then, and the brutality kept escalating. Tupac later gave an interview to Angie Martinez that was said to be a raw version of his diss track Hit 'Em Up. Unfortunately, the world never got to see that interview, as it was never released. Napoleon revealed that the unreleased interview was just as intense, if not more, than the famous diss track, showing just how deep the feud between Death Row and Bad Boy had become. In the unreleased interview with Angie Martinez, Tupac said things could have landed him back in prison. He wasn't fully himself at the time and lashed out at Bad Boy Records and others, which is why it was decided not to release the interview. It would have only escalated tensions on both sides. However, there's another version of the story as to why the interview never saw the light of day. According to a former Bad Boy Records bodyguard, Puffy especially requested that it not be released. This implies that Puffy had heard the interview and knew the damage it could cause, especially with Pac's words being so inflammatory. As Napoleon put it, why would you try to stop something if you didn't hear it? Angie Martinez, in a later interview, admitted that Biggie and Puffy were upset with her for doing the interview with Tupac. They felt betrayed since Angie was considered the voice of New York, and the interview favored Pac, who was already beefing with them. Although Angie and Biggie eventually patched things up, Biggie was deeply unhappy with her at the time. Following that, Pac decided to go all out, recording his legendary diss track Hit 'Em Up, which was a direct attack on Bad Boy Records, Biggie, and Puffy. His aggression only grew, and at the 1996 Soul Train Awards, things nearly exploded. Pac and Suge Knight had a plan to confront Biggie on stage, but event organizers prevented it out of fear that chaos would break out. Still, tension filled the air when Pac saw Biggie arrive at the event. He reportedly called him a fat bastard and pulled a gun on him, leading to a fight. One significant detail from this incident, as told by Reggie Wright Jr., was how Puffy reacted during the altercation. While Biggie stood his ground, Puffy reportedly ran and hid under a car. Another version of the story from former bodyguard Gene Deal claims that Puffy had already fled before the confrontation even began. What's even more surprising is that Deal recalled Puffy saying something shocking. "I don't care if Pac got to die, Big got to die. Suge goes to jail. Something's got to change." This set the stage for more rumors, including the claim that Puffy had put a bounty on death row chains, offering $10,000 to anyone who could snatch one. This led to a brutal altercation at a mall where Orlando Anderson, a key figure in Tupac's murder, was involved in a fight and allegedly tried to steal a death row chain. After the infamous Mike Tyson fight in Las Vegas, one of Death Row's associates who had been in the mall fight saw Orlando Anderson and told Tupac. Without hesitation, Pac sought revenge, which eventually led to the tragic chain of events that had culminated in his murder just an hour before. Interestingly, Diddy had something intriguing to say about the day Tupac was killed. He reflected on it in an interview with Rolling Stone back in 1997, sharing how the news hit him and those around him. At first we were shocked, Diddy said, and we were hurt. It was like, why'd that have to happen? But his shock quickly turned into fear, not only for his safety but for the media and how it would portray the situation. We became scared because we know how the media is, he admitted. In the first few days, all the news in LA and Vegas had our pictures plastered everywhere. They're pointing fingers at us, talking about it nonstop. He emphasized that it had nothing to do with Tupac's murder, yet the accusations were overwhelming.
Documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there.
Since then, Tupac's case has remained one of the saddest, most high-profile cases in history. If federal investigators are indeed working with prosecutors on Tupac's case and looking into charges against Diddy, it indicates they might actually have some solid evidence. Whatever it is, the truth seems likely to emerge eventually. But what do you think about this whole saga? While we wait for more updates, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos discussing the FBI revealing names involved in the Diddy case. We're just scratching the surface here, and there's so much more to uncover.